Hello and good evening. You are watching the Policy Times, world's first policy and development media. I am Akram Hoque, as founder editor of the Policy Times. I am extremely thrilled and excited to discuss with you a lot of important issues that we have outlined today. You know, Policy Times as a development media, we have taken development at the center stage. Any society which really wants the ultimate objective of any society is development, and everyone wants to achieve development, but the path we often choose is needs direction, needs guidance, and that is why Policy Times has been dedicating itself towards bringing the youth, the different stakeholders of the society, whether it is academia, industry, policymakers, so that we all together can develop the path towards development now, or prosperity and happiness. Development, prosperity, and happiness, these are three important parameters of you know measuring how successful our societies are. Now, this is a very important topic we have decided to talk on: sustainable development goals, decided and outlined by the United Nations, has been at the forefront and center stage of development. And it has been a wonderful parameter, direction, or roadmap given to the world, to achieve how a society can sustainably grow and develop its path. Today, we have three young leaders, youth leaders of Africa, who has been continuously working towards SDG, implementing SDG, working with different development agencies. And we got this opportunity to understand from them how Africa is implementing, imbibing, incorporating sustainable development goals, especially post pandemic, because we all know pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic is nothing different than a third world war, and how the entire world was devastated by the impact of COVID, especially economically and employment wise. And also the education sector got massively disrupted. So three youth leader, I have Mr. Takudzwanashe, who is the youth and SDG advocate at Zimbabwe. With him, we have James Akan and Musa Walatunji. With them, we will be discussing a lot of issues how Africa is implementing and what are the current challenges and how the youth of Africa taking the sustainability issue forward and to develop the roadmaps. Now, without taking any more time, may I request all our three speakers kindly introduce yourself in maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and then we go to the main topic. So I request first Takud to kindly uh, say a few words about your journey and your profile.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Akan and Akram. I'm very grateful to be here. Also, special thanks to James and Musa, amazing leaders that we have here in Africa. My name is Samhembere Takudzwanashe. It's quite a long name indeed, and I'm proud of it. I'm from Zimbabwe, Southern Africa. I am a youth and sustainable development goals advocate, and I really enjoy things that have to do with development across the dividends. I love young people, and I really want to see a better Africa and an Africa that can sustain itself. And that's one special faculty I really want to focus on, and I'm grateful to be here. That's who I am.
Thank you, Takud. Let me come to Musa. Musa, kindly introduce yourself.
Uh, Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Musa Olatunji. I'm the lead consultant for BMO Global Consulting, where we focus on more of humanitarian aspects relating to business consulting, financial management, policy implementation, and all sorts. Then likewise, I also chance to be the co-founder and executive director of More Global Foundation, which is the NGO aspects that focus more on SDG 4, SDG 3, and SDG 2, which is education, quality, health education, and hunger. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to a fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me come to James. James, kindly introduce yourself.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to everyone. I want to thank the organizers of this program for this opportunity to speak on the SDG. My name is James Akan. I am the spokesperson Democracy Africa Youth Parliament. I'm also a GlobalWonk and an on-frontier expert. I have wide experience in driving the SDG agenda, and also I'm also the lead convener of Agenda 26 Youth for Agenda 2063 that is concentrating on aligning with the SDG goals to drive aspirations of Africa for domestication of the SDG goals in across the African states. So I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to sit with Musa and my friend from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, James. Let us go to the subject now, and each of us will take 10 minutes to talk on the topic that we have decided. So now, how has SDG been, in the implementation mode in Africa, and especially since last 1.5 years, when Africa, though is not very deeply disrupted and impacted by COVID, but somewhere enough precautions are being taken in Africa, so that it doesn't get impacted by COVID. Now, Takud, I come to you first. Give us a little account about how are you implementing SDGs? What is the situation now? And how do you see the roadmap post-pandemic? Though we are not yet out of Corona, we are just facing the third wave. We don't know how Corona will disrupt, will come back, and how in which form and which country will be impacted. There will be some uncertainty in that question. But how are you taking the SDG roadmap forward?
Thank you very much. The issue to do with sustainable development goals is one critical one, and us as Africans and as individuals, really, we need to start having a huge narrative towards the sustainable development goals. Yes, we know that they evolved from the 2015 from the Millennial Development Goals, which were there, and then we proceeded to the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, where more than 190 countries signed towards these issues to do with the Sustainable Development Goals. So now we are in the decade of action. Remember, we are now left with 10 years towards the Sustainable Development Goals, and our major aim now is to at least try to have a fulfillment and the achievement towards these goals. But since 2019 to current, we are facing a pandemic that has ravaged each and every continent, that has ravaged each and every country. We are talking of COVID-19 or this coronavirus. It has never given us the space or chance to be more developmental, because we're now focusing on various issues of concern. We are talking of issues to do with poverty. We're talking of issues to do with how we can try to eradicate poverty, hunger, issues to do with health. And remember, as sustainable development goals, sustainable development goal number 3 is the one that focuses on good health and well-being. Therefore, how can we achieve sustainable development goal number 3 in such a crisis? Which means the pandemic is now becoming a hindrance towards the goal that we are seeking for as far as good health and well-being is concerned. That leads me to focus on some of the sustainable development goals that we have, and we are trying to implement across Africa, and specifically here in Zimbabwe. We are trying to make sure that we do things that have to do with quality education, as which was said by my friend Musa. Quality education is one very important narrative when it comes to the development of each and every nation across the globe. We are looking at a situation whereby the issue to do with implementation of education and its quality is no longer the same, because a lot of people, whether you're at secondary, primary, or tertiary, we are no longer now having the prerequisite platform to go and attend school because of COVID-19. So a lot of things are derailed by COVID-19. We are seeing of issues to do with the sustainable cities and communities. We are seeing of things to do with gender equality. Right now, as we are talking, a lot of people are facing some challenges in household level. We're talking of issues to do with the gender-based violence. And then with the rise of such cases, because we now want to move to sustainable development, goal number 5, that talks of gender equality. It's really a catastrophe or a tragic scenario we're facing down here in Africa and the whole world as a whole, because we are no longer having the platform to advocate and have awareness towards sustainable development goals. However, going to your issue of how we are trying to implement the goals here in Africa, I can tell you that since 2015, not everyone has the knowledge towards these goals. It's not everyone who really even know what the sustainable development goals are, but a select few know. And it's not for anyone to blame, it's for us, even as we are speaking as advocates of SDGs, we have a huge role to play. First, before we even try to implement the goals, 5 years down the line, we have a lot of people who don't even know what the sustainable development goals are. So what major thing we are trying to do and to focus on as far as here in Zimbabwe are concerned, we're trying to rope in the media. We are trying to make sure that through the radio station, through social media, uh, through the radio and traditional forms of media, we are trying by all means to at least try to give the knowledge of the goals first before we try to implement them. And it is very funny for you to notice that everyone across every dividend is focusing on the sustainable development goals. The only issue is that they don't even know that they are focusing on the sustainable development goals, because we do have teachers who are teaching, but at times they might not even know that they're focusing on sustainable development goal number 4 that talks of quality education. We also have people who are focusing on reduced inequalities. People now, we are talking of people who are trying by all means to make sure that we are all treated on the same platform. People which also include people living with disabilities or people with disabilities, people of the marginalized communities. We have a lot of work which is being done, and here in Zimbabwe, I would like to appreciate some of the work which is being done by the government in partnerships with various civic society organizations and non-governmental organizations. And the implementation is trying to grow, and people were trying to say that it should not be urbanized. We really want to go and see what is happening across the rural platforms, what is happening across peri-urban platforms, because the sustainable development goals mantra is to leave no one behind. So it is very, very important that when we focus on the sustainable development goals, we leave no one behind, we include everyone, and we try by all means to at least make sure that the gap within us is reduced. And I would really like to thank you for asking and making us able to have this platform, the roadmap towards sustainable development goals. And looking at the post side of the pandemic, we still have a lot to do. But in that lot to do, if we focus on sustainable development goal number 17, that talks of partnerships, we are going somewhere, because through your partnerships for us as the policy times, as we are engaging right now, is one form of partnership, which I believe can go a long way in trying to make sure that the awareness towards sustainable development goals is enhanced, and the set targets within the sustainable development goals is put into practicality, because we no longer want the SDGs to be just a form of a theory approach, but a more practical approach, so that it caters across all the demographic dividends. We are focusing on the young people who constitute a larger population here in Africa and across the globe. We want to focus on women who also play a critical role as far as the development of our nation is concerned. So my last sentiments is that we have a long way to go as far as the SDGs are concerned, but that work which has been done thus far is actually very, very important in terms of us realizing the importance of sustainable development goals. Hence why we are now saying we are in the decade of action. And those past 5 years, yes, we have been trying to maneuver and get information and trying to put it into people and making sure that the awareness is put into rampant. But now we are saying it's a decade of action, and we want to make sure that we put more action more than we speak. So I really appreciate you so much, Mr. Akram.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Takud. Very concisely and wonderfully presented the picture, and you included all the relevant stakeholders and a couple of SDGs that shows that you have little clarity towards how you want to lead the youth in Zimbabwe to take the sustainability issue forward, especially the SDGs. I come to Musa now. Musa, coming from Nigeria, share your comprehensive picture about how Nigeria is implementing SDGs and which areas you are focusing, and how, especially the post-pandemic, we can take SDG forward, because we have a deadline. So we have the SDG. United Nations has put a timeline of implementing SDG in the country. Now, how do we achieve it from here? Musa, over to you.
Okay. Thank you once again for the platform. First and first, let me first of all acknowledge my colleague, Takuds. I'm sorry I will not be able to pronounce the full name, but I usually call you Takuds. Okay, you have really break down the whole SDGs and how it's really been seen or been acknowledged in Africa that we all belong, be it Nigeria, be it Ghana, be it Zimbabwe, mention all the 54 African countries. From your question, I focus more on SDG 1 to 5, 16, 17. And I did not just focus on it. I'm an ambassador both in local organization and international organization. But presently, what I've been working on for the past 2 years is focusing direction of youth development. And when you're talking about youth development, you're never going to miss out SDG 4, quality education, or you're never going to miss out SDG 16, peace, because young people in the African region, and most especially my country here in Nigeria, they've been used as a tool for causing mayhems, causing conflicts within the country. So that's why I focus more on SDG 4 and SDG 16, because my target population are the youth. So, and over the years, I've actually been able to equip myself with trainings belonging to different fellowship across the globe, where I've been able to equip myself on how to handle conflict management, conflict resolution, become a mediator. Presently, I'm a Global Peace Ambassador with an organization where we've been able to go through a series of modules on how to solve conflicts that happens, inter-region conflicts, border conflicts, insecurity issue that is going on in the country. And concerning the peace, we know most time whenever we have issue relating to peace, it always happens during the election period. In 2019, I was the Lagos State coordinator for election observation. And in those years, in 2019, I was able to travel to different local governments. I know in India, you guys call it district, you call it region, but in Nigeria here, we call it state. So I was the coordinator for a particular state. In that state, we have 20 local districts. We call it local government here in Nigeria. So I was able to go to 10 on that particular election day, which brought the second tenure of our present administration, the President Muhammadu Buhari, who is in the present administration. And what I noticed is that young people who are ignorant, who are not well educated, or who have a wrong perspective about life, wrong perspective about life, do not really understand the importance of peace, do not really understand that they are actually the assets of a particular nation. When you talk about Africa, Nigeria has one of the highest population in Africa. And in our population, we have over 60% who are youths. So we are talking about close to 100 million of youths. And when you look at the population, we have issues of when before COVID came into place, we've been battling with the issue of economic slowdown, recession. We've battling with high level of poverty across the region. We've been battling with high crime rates, which are youth penetrated. Youth are the targets. Youth are the victims. We have out of school children across the country. We have unemployment rates. And when you look at these challenges, I see I am a youth who grew up from a vulnerable environment, and I've been able to position myself not just on a local level, but on an international level, where I've been able to get awards and recognition across all the continents that I've not even traveled to. So I use my own personal life experience to teach them, to inspire them. I share my story with them. I've been able to travel to 70% of all regions in Nigeria. And I'm not just traveling just to explore. I'm traveling to meet youth. I'm traveling to execute different local programs and projects, most targeting at youth, because I see us as an asset, not a liability that most of our past and present administration have seen us be. These politicians, they make use of us, we the youth, they make use of us to conduct their irregularities, which has caused a lot of issues we are facing currently as a bad governance, issue of poor management of assets, poor issues of youth not really unleashing the talent that they have. So I focus more on training and facilitation. And that was what brought about the two organizations I'm running. BMO Global Consulting, which is a business aspect, focusing on training of professionals and individuals and corporate organizations. And the NGO, which is More Global Foundation, focus target is actually the youth. And because of that, we believe youth are energetic, youth have more potentials to become the future leader. And not just the future leader, we call them now the now leaders. And for them to unleash their talent, they need to be in the right direction. And when you look at our environment, I'm talking about Nigeria presently, our environment is so vulnerable enough. Like I said earlier, I grew up from the streets. And from that street, I can tell you the level of high crime rates we have. Young people are easily maneuvered. Young people are easily convinced to do bad things. Young people are easily convinced to look at the bad administration, the portraits of bad leadership we have, and it influences them to become a politicians in the future, not a politicians that have passion to create sustainable change, to build the nation, but a politicians who just see politics as a game of influencing themselves, becoming upholding to power and enriching their pockets. So we need to change that narrative. Until we change that narrative, that's when we can have a nation that works. That's when we can have individuals that can remember that his or our neighbor is hungry, his or our neighbor need shelter, his or our neighbor need good education, his or our neighbor need mentorship, his or our neighbor need support for his or our innovative business to be sustainable, to be profitable, so that this person will not be contributing to the effect, to the negative effect we have actually being faced in the country. So I do more of training and facilitation for young people. And I've been doing that for more than 5 years. And to God be the glory, we've been having different testimonies. Presently, with my consulting firm, I partnered I was subcontracted to work on a project from NBC, Nigerian Bottling Company, in partnership with Coca-Cola, to train 1,000 youths on business and life skills. And it's on digital. This is one of the, let me say, this guy's blessing that COVID brought to us. The majority of us, we felt it's until you are out there that you can achieve something. But COVID made us to realize you can be indoor, you can be in your house, you can be anywhere, and yet you will still be productive. So we are leveraging on STI, which is the science, technology, and innovation, to create more passionate youth, more productive youth, young people who are proactive and changing the narrative. That's on the other side. I also focus on policy. I've been opportune to serve at the National Assembly, which is the apex body, apex policy body in Nigeria, where we have the likes of our senators, the likes of our legislators who make policy that affects or that support, either affect or support. But it's unfortunate, most of their policy that they've been implementing did not really push the nation forward. And when you look at the root cause of this, you see that there are young people who grew up from a vulnerable environment, just like I said earlier. Their environment was volatile. They did not really see the importance of being passionate, of being a humanitarian, or being a political leader with a mission to drive the nation forward. So majority of them are grown over time in that vulnerable environment and have the opportunity to be in the legislative or be in the Senate, in the chambers, making policy that does not really makes sustainable change or create a change that we really want in Nigeria. So when I got to the National Assembly, I was opportune to learn the legislative practices and processes. And from there, I realized majority of our challenges that we are facing in Nigeria is policy. We have bad policy and we have bad policy maker. So how do we change that as well when it comes to policy making and implementation? We need to change that when we need to train our youth. We need to train the future. And the future is now. The future is never tomorrow. The future is now. So what we put in place is we have different organizations that focus on policy drafting, policy implementation. I was formerly an honorable member of the same Democracy African Youth Parliament, my fellow colleague James Akan, who is the present spokesperson. All this is for me to learn, not just for me to learn alone. Once I learn, I also implement. I meet vulnerable youth from the community I've grown up, from the same state, from the same nation that I am presently living in. I inspire them, I put them through what I've learned. So these have been having testimonies, but that does not equate to the side effects of COVID. COVID actually affected a lot of things. It actually derailed the mindset of so many young people back to engaging in negative activities when it comes to corruptions, when it comes to internet fraud and all sorts. But we will never relent. We'll keep pushing and we'll keep sensitizing. Sensitizing is not something you do today and you expect the impact or the report, the immediate report. It's a continuous process. And that's what I believe in, a long-term goal that will really create a sustainable change than doing what I will do now. And it's all the change will just go off air. So that's what I've been doing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Musa, for outlining such beautifully about the work that you are doing. At the same time, how you are traveling across the country, how you have taken policy at the center stage of nation building. I want to again emphasize on that point that Policy Times, the name itself we kept as the Policy Times because we wanted to give excessive importance to the word, to the term called policy, because policy is the nucleus of development. If we fail to develop best policies, and also not only making the best policy, we need to implement the policy in the best possible manner. So how better policy making and better policy implementation we can do, and where we can play a major role, and how we can play the major role, how we can bring different stakeholders. Very beautifully you have presented. I come to our third speaker, James. James, kindly give us brief further on what Musa and Takud shared and spoke.
Okay, they have spoken so well, and I want to share their views. When you go to streets, Nigeria, like Musa rightly said, Nigeria's population is one of the highest in Africa, and in 2030 that is going to double his figure, and not just double his figure, is going to overtake US population. And what does that imply? It implies that there will be food insecurity, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be extremism if these people are not adequately addressed, if certain things are not adequately addressed. But the problem, the angle I'm going to come in from is the fact that we have budget and then we do not monitor these budgets. What I'm doing in my community, what I'm doing in my state is to monitor budgets of governments. Most times the government will bring in very inflated figures, and then when you go to the implementation side of it, you will not see any tangible infrastructure, social infrastructures around those things. So this is what we do when government brings up the budget, like the annual budget. What we do is to scrutinize this budget, go to public hearing, make input about this budget to ensure that our to implement budget. We also interface between the contractors and the execution, the community, to ensure that these things that are reflected in the budget are actually translated in the communities. Because what the government do, corruption is very high in our community. Corruption is very high in Africa. What government do is just to inflate figures, and then they will put figures on places that that when you go to those places, when people will not want to go to those places because those places are neglected. Those places you have to take boats, you have to go through the waters to ensure that you get to those locations. So most times they inflate figures, and then you see that these people who are disconnected from the society do not have access to basic infrastructures, and this is what is killing people. And what Musa said about being in the streets is very true. One is that in
Yeah.
Nigeria, the Nigeria population has right as little as $1 can actually make someone take up arms and then kill as many people as possible. So in Nigeria, in Africa, it's going to have a huge negative impact in the continent, because Nigeria, for one, is a country whose population is constantly growing, and it's not just constantly growing. You have a lot of people who are leaving the country, going to other continents, going to other countries, and if they are not properly trained, they are going to constitute nuisance in those communities. Just for instance, the Mediterranean Sea. When you go to the Mediterranean Sea, you see a lot of Nigerians who are trying to cross the border, and the concession they have is just that if I go to these European countries, my life is going to be better. But that's not the truth. The truth is that there are certain things they are not doing in the country well, which if they do well, they will not even think about migrating out of the country. So what are the things that are not doing well? Implementation of budgets. When you monitor these budgets, you understand that, okay, let me cite an instance. When we talk about inequality, you go to special needs, people with disabilities, those with special needs. You go to their places and you see in the budget they have already planned infrastructures, and you know that most people do not go to school in the country we live. Most people with disabilities cannot go to school. Why? Because the number of intakes they have in particular sessions cannot be exceeded because of the infrastructures. So the infrastructures are not there to have these people get in school. So when we are talking about quality education, most people have not even gone through the 4 walls of education. The people living in disability, what is their fate? What have we done to correct these things? Yet the government will keep making budgets to reflect that infrastructures have been constructed in certain places, whereas those infrastructures are not there. And then people are being denied of their basic rights and fundamental rights. And we don't question the government. So what I'm doing with my organization is to monitor these budgets to ensure that the people who they allot certain things to is getting to them. Recently, we made a finding about a budget that was health infrastructure. There's supposed to be a social health infrastructure in a particular community, and each year a budget is monies are allotted for that particular budget, and yet you don't see any tangible results. So when you talk about people not implementing the budget that have been written in certain things, it becomes a problem, because one is that the people who are supposed to have basic access to health, they don't have it. The high mortality is going high, especially in rural areas. When you say you are going to construct health facilities and then you don't construct it for the people, where are they going to? The people that do not have the funds to come to the city for the basic health infrastructure, they are supposed to have access to basic health infrastructure. What will be their fate? The high mortality is going up and up every day, and we are not saying anything about it. So one of the things I do is just to ensure that these things are properly monitored, not just properly monitored. We interface with the government. When we see that, okay, you've actually put 1 billion naira for health infrastructure, and we do not see it in the community you've actually said that you're going to put it. We meet the government officials and tell them that this thing is not there, that these things you've penned down in the budget is not there. What is the fate? Sometimes they tell us that they have settled the contractors, they have settled the people that are handling the budget, and then we go to them and ask them, why have this thing been? So a lot of times we have people going through excuses, and then they are throwing excuses and the people are affected. Like Musa rightly said, when you go to the streets, not just if you, I have been across the streets, you see young people from the ages of 5 to 12. You see them on the streets. They don't have homes. Most of them have left homes. Why did they leave homes? Because their parents cannot afford they cannot afford to feed them. Why? Some of them they have this black notion that most of the children are witches, so they send them out of their homes and they don't have anywhere to. So these children, what will be their fate when they meet politicians, desperate politicians who want to manipulate them for crimes and organized crimes and the rest? So some of the things we neglect are actually the things causing hazards in our society. Nigeria, the Northeast Nigeria is experiencing conflict, a crisis, experiencing all sorts of things because some of these things have been abandoned. Some of the things they are supposed to be looking at have been totally abandoned. So when it comes to poverty, we need to understand that without solving the problem of poverty, all that goals are going to just be a mirage. I want to put my focus on poverty because poverty is increasing day by day. The COVID that came even amplified the poverty in Africa. Why? Because those people who have small scale businesses cannot access their small scale businesses because of the lockdowns, and most of them do not have any other source of income. So when we talk about solving poverty, unemployment, and the rest, we have to begin to do something. And what I'm doing about unemployment is very distinct. It's about policies and then engaging policymakers to ensure that they assent to these policies. And one of the things I've been able to do successfully here with my team is the Akwa Ibom Youth Development Fund Bill. The Akwa Ibom Youth Development Fund Bill, we went across communities in my state. We call it state, like Musa rightly said. We went around the communities and we identified a particular problem they are having, and that is unemployment. So many youths in Nigeria, so many youths in my state do not have any means of livelihood. They don't even have anybody to train them in basic skills that they can use to better the society, relevant skills. So we identified, we did a thorough need assessment across communities, and we realized that it is unemployment that has been the core issue. So what did we do to address? We came together, we brainstormed.
And we drafted a policy that we tagged Akwa Ibom State Youth Development Fund Bill. And the policy is to address youth restiveness. If you go to South Africa today, you see that whenever there's an opportunity for violence, you see that those young people take advantage to loot people's shops, people's businesses. Why do they do that? It's because they don't have it. If they had it, they will not loot those places. Just recently, I think 2 days ago, videos in circulation had it that South African youth entered shops and burned shops. Why? Because these things they feel threatened when foreign investors come around and have big businesses, and they don't have jobs. So these are the things we are trying to solve. The situation where we can gainfully engage more youth, build their capacities in such a way that they will have relevant skills. And the world is changing very fast. And if we do not leverage on opportunities today, we are going to be backward. In Africa, the politicians need to begin to draft policies that will empower young people, not just empower them with future skills like robotics, future skills like artificial intelligence, future skills like emotional intelligence, future skills like science, material science. There are so many skills that we are losing out on. Yet we have politicians that will come on media spaces and say that they have done 1 to 3 things. Yet we cannot see any of those things or any of those tangible things. So it is time for us to build collaborations in such a way that we can enhance our potentials, like youth potentials, and engage stakeholders, engage government officials, engage them, because the money they squander outside the country is outside the continent is becoming embarrassing. They go out of the country, embezzle the money and take it to other countries, and yet the people are living in poverty. I want to even believe that most times they have used, in fact, I want to believe that they have used poverty, they have weaponized poverty, so that whenever they come to during election, they can offer people less than $1 and then have them, vote for them, buy their votes and the rest. And this have become a repeated trend in our society. And how do we solve them? Is by ensuring that young people build the necessary skills. And then one other thing we should also do is quality education. When we talk about quality education, if you go to my community, like my local community or the local governments in Nigeria, most times we put our concentrations on the city capitals, we put our concentrations on the capitals, but we leave out the rural communities. The rural communities, most times they don't even have roof over their head. Those people that if it was even possible, I could have been sharing some of these things. Most of them don't have roof over their heads, and this thing we call quality education, most of them don't even have teachers that teach them. So how do we even bring about equality when some of these people are deprived of the basic things they are supposed to have? In communities, sometimes you don't even see teachers there. You can just have one teacher teaching over 1,000 students. So how do you want the child to grow? How do you want the child's cognitive abilities to develop? So these are the things we need to solve. These are the things we need to solve. And more, we need to also design our educational curriculum in Africa to suit the present needs. Most of the children go through schools and then come back and don't have anything to do. So our educational system should be structured in such a way that the curriculum will have skill acquisition, they will have vocational acquisition, will have some of the basic relevant skills we have today, and then we'll begin to solve some of these problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, James, for again giving a very comprehensive and different picture that shows the kind of dedication and the kind of commitment and the kind of focus with which you are working to bring change in Africa. And we salute you, and we are with you to bring much more positive change. We are out of time. So we go back to all our speakers and have the closing comment or a final message if you have, for our viewers. And with this, I will summarize all the points together in the end. So I invite Mr. Thakur to give the closing comment in maximum 2 minutes. Let us have 2 minutes each and give the closing comment. Thakur.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'm very grateful to all the speakers, Mr. James, Mr. Musa, and of course, Mr. Akram. I believe the greatest way for us as young people to participate is through participation. And I urge each and every young person to be involved and to engage in each and everything that has to do with policy making, everything that has to be developmental. We take the stride so that at least we can create a better Africa, because I believe we are better together. So, in a nutshell, all I'm saying is we need to unite as young people, we need to come together and put politics aside and development inside, so that at least we can create a platform for young people that creates positive change and positive development within our communities. And together we can. I thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Musa. Musa, your closing remarks.
Okay, first and first, thank you to the Policy Times World Business School for this opportunity. I take great pleasure. On a final note, I usually say this. I'm always proud to say I was grew up from the streets, and I've been known globally for my numerous participation in nation building. So if I can do it, you can do it. And you can only do it when you are conversant, when you know yourself, when you identify your potentials and you are aligned to your potentials. And after aligning, the next thing to do is to contribute immensely, because we need, with supportive effort, we can create a sustainable change. So with your voice, with your uniqueness, with your purpose on it, we can actually create the Nigeria, the Africa, and the world we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Musa. I come to James. James, your closing comment.
Okay, this is my address to young people. I want to first thank Policy for this opportunity. This is my address to young people. We have the demographic strength. We have all we have. We need to change and drive the change we want. We have all we need to drive the change we want. And if everybody comes together collectively and say, this is what we want, there's nothing that can stop us. So stop being a political tool. Don't allow yourself to be used by greedy and desperate politicians to perpetuate havoc in the society. Rather, build your skill, build your capacity in such a way that you function properly in the society, and then they will see your relevance, and then they accord the necessary respect to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Thakur. Thank you so much, Musa and James, for being with us and having this show. There is what I want to say, that development is never gifted. It is always attained. Often the approach that we follow in our life is, we often, in India also and in South Asia also, there was a time when Bangladesh was totally dependent on charity. Now that country has shifted its focus from charity and donations to one of the most enterprising nation in the world. And that is why today Bangladesh is helping other nations instead of living in donations and charity. What I mean to say is, United Nations has given us a framework. What we have to do, we have to study that framework, and we have to build our own model of development. India, whatever it has done, it is also a very beautiful country. The collaboration between Africa and India is always win-win. And you are youth there, and in India, we also one of the youngest countries of the world. If we can collaborate further, we have deep collaborations, but if we can collaborate further and identify some concrete roadmap for nation building and for our mutual growth, that will be excellent roadmap for development in both countries. The other point that I want to just say is that innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship, these three are the key of prosperity and development. in Africa, starting from skilling, we need to skill. Education, ultimate the destination of education is skilling and employment, right? So we need to skill ourselves and we need to focus on just three areas. Let us have the latest of technology. Now, when we say the latest of technology, let us be the innovator of Zoom like platform. Let us create our own Facebook. Let us create our next generation Twitter. Let us create, let there be the next billionaire coming from Africa or India. Let the next Elon Musk be from one of you. So if, or the next richest person coming from, or the next most innovator or innovative person coming from Africa. If we can achieve this, we can change our nations. So what I mean to say that technology has given us an immense benefit. Now, how do we now convert or use that benefit for our own prosperity and development? So by thanking to each of you for being with us and having a very bright discussion, and the viewers, Policy Times, and we all are committed to development. If you like discussions like us, these discussions may not be very exciting, but these discussions are relevant, are important for each of you, for each of us. So let us come together, let us join hands to bring development in our own way, in our own space. Thank you. Keep watching the Policy Times.